40 chess. Yeah. 40 chess. 40 chess. Let's get it.
Yo, is that T-Dog?
40 chess. 40 chess. Hey. 40 chess. This a trade show. Patreon where the trades go. Tap in and watch. That's what you came for. Ain't gotta say my name. They know my name, bro.
What's good, man?
We got McNutted in ATM. Always start off the show with a trade from them. You should always make sure that your trade is in. Patreon, why not be a Patreon? Know you wish you could spend every day with them. Tap in and say what you gon' say with them. South Harmon can fill up a stadium. Next time you log in, make sure that you bring a friend. We about to kick off, let the day begin. Go follow the socials. 40 Chess FF is posted. If your trade is an F, you get roasted. Go like and subscribe for the crew. Apple, Spotify, and the YouTube. You know Cooper got the warp too. Let us give you a walkthrough. 40 Chess. This is 40 Chess.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Dynasty Trade Show. So glad you can join us. Happy to have you. And dang, 2 weeks in a row, Adam. We got some deals. They're still sporadic. We're trying to work through things, right? It just seems like it's everybody's taking a nice little break. I don't know about you, but I'm also hammering the piss out of startups. Got to spend all that money I won this year.
I was going to say, it feels like, well, I have not yet, although I did agree to join, and I'm pretty excited about the MIF league that we're doing. Me, you. MIL, but I'm leaving. MIL.
That's a brainchild, Eric. It's a hell of a league.
MF, I'm leaving. You know, I'm actually pretty. It's pretty sweet. I'm not gonna spoil the details now. We'll probably air the details of that startup soon later on. But in that startup, I feel like it's trade hiatus season for some reason. Like the trades are not as frequent, right? They're not as free flowing. We actually don't have one of our own trades for this, so we'll start off a little different. And because we don't have one of our own trades, Mike, and we know who's pulling the trades, I can almost guarantee you who's going to be starting. But before we get to the trades, if you have trades that you're like, hey, these guys need trades, I got trades to give you. Patreon.com/South Harmon. Come check us out over there. So many good things are popping off in the Discord. So many benefits, features. We have a whole crew of people doing rankings now. This is exciting, buddy. This is an exciting time of year if you're really looking to get into startups. So go check out the Patreon. But without further ado, let's start off with one of Blitz's trades. And who would have thought? You know, look at us. All right. So Blitz has a trade here. It's a 12-team, 2 quarterback, 2 tight end, PPR, 1.5 tight end premium with a 0.25 points per carry. Best ball start 12. And it's America's Game. Let me clean this up a little bit here. Come on, presentation. America's Game is the name of the show. We have Mr. Wonderful is acquiring a 25 first, a 25 first as well, and a 25 third. So 225 first. He is receiving, he's sending away to the Who's 501 Brandon Aiyuk, 1012 Diontae Johnson, 1101 Geno Smith. 2 quarterback league, Mike. Where are your thoughts at on this?
Here's the tough part, man. And I do this when I get into startups too. Name value, trying to project people out. Okay. Now, here's the scenario, right? Diontae Johnson just continues to kind of be Diontae Johnson. So you can pencil him in around like a late first value. I'd much rather buy him for a second, right? Like, just feels so much better. The downside is if my second goes to shit, it's the 201 Adam, right? Downside if my first goes to shit, it's the 101. Big difference. Huge, massive difference, okay? So, like, that part's fine. Brandon Aiyuk, then, you put in there. Also, there's a first involved. Would I like to bribe Brandon Aiyuk? Yeah, I really like the guy. But every time that I seem to do this, and maybe it's just me, maybe people have more luck, but every time I seem to buy things, even in best ball, for just, 1-for-1, a first, it always goes to shit for me. It always goes to shit. And at the end of the year, I'm going, I'd rather have that first back. I'd rather just have it. So, here, Mr. Wonderful, I think, did a fabulous job here, right? Just if I'm not going to compete and I find somebody who wants to buy in, I know I just can't bend people over anymore and fleece the hell out of them.
Right.
So what do? I make a very fair trade that just goes, here you go. Here you go. The Geno Smith thing, right? If you look at it, you just went 1-for-1 across. Like, Mike, you're crazy. You know, Diontae, you're probably right. Like a generic first. You probably want the generic first over Diontae.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather have Aiyuk over a generic first.
Agreed.
Understandable. And I would much rather have Geno Smith over a generic third at this point.
Agreed. In a 2-quarterback league, right?
But here's how like things start to snowball, right? The Seahawks draft a quarterback, right? Like, Geno might get 5 games, 6 games, mentor the guy. And then you find out the rookie starting week 1, Geno's back in a backup role, and you're like, well, okay. Like, it wasn't as great as a value as I thought. Diontae Johnson starts slow. Diontae Johnson doesn't perform, right? Doesn't do anything, right? Just goes back to being like a 700-yard guy, which just really doesn't move the needle for anybody anywhere, even in the best ball league. Damn, rather have the first. Something in the offseason happens with Brandon Aiyuk, you know. Knock on wood, but, you know, injury, suspension, something along those.
Yeah,
back
that
in
part's
Shanahan's
big.
doghouse because he does something stupid in the playoffs. I don't know. But this is the kind of risk you run when you have these players. And if I'm going to buy players for first, like, these got to be home run slam dunks at this point. Like, it really does. Especially in best ball, if I'm going to trade up. I'm not going to give up liquidity right now in January to try to build a contender in September. It always seems to backfire. So I'm going to go against my initial, like, I look at it and I go, damn, Blitz got something here, right? This is how I used to do it in the past. I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't. I would rather not trade now and then try to figure stuff out through the rest of the offseason as more information becomes available, as a little bit more certainty comes into play. It's got to be a home run slam dunk anymore, and I think I'm going to side with Mr. Wonderful on this one, where I just want his side a little bit more.
Yeah, so I think I'll say for me, Mike, market, like your league market does kind of dictate a little bit of like how I would do stuff like this. In overall process, though, I really agree with a lot of the points that you made as far as I don't want to be, especially more than one, I think is another big thing, right? Because I actually, right now, I just gave away a pretty good size of leverage while doing this too in 25 first. So think about it as well. Mike, you already touched on the injury front, right? Like, I think the change of scenarios as well as injuries are the most problematic for players right now this time of year. Think about, no matter what you want to say, if you love or don't love any one of these players, every single day they wake up, there's risk. I mean, we don't have to act like, you know, it's tremendously high, but literally every single day they wake up, there's risk. There was an offseason before we even got to the season that, you know, when running backs were more highly valued going into that 22 year, that J.K. Dobbins and Akers, before the season even started, their season was done, right? And like, when you just think about that, you carry that difference in risk. No matter what happens to the 25 class, as bad as you think the prospects are, those picks have no way of going down. They just don't, right? They can't get hurt. There's no injuries. So there's that factor. Now, there are certain leagues where if you make a move like this and those guys don't get hurt, that this trade can't necessarily hurt you, and it could end up working out well. But I just think of it more from a process standpoint. It's not necessarily on the merit of if these guys could stay healthy and this could be a good trade and you could end up winning your league because you make a trade like this, right? It's more so that I wanted the last point I want to highlight here is the 25 first part. Right now, one of the crazy things is if I'm not like locked into a strong contender mode, and even then, sometimes I'll do it if I can get them cheap enough. 25 firsts are something that is very much the type of pick and easy to acquire right now. Because why? Right now you have highlighting all the ramp up of the 24 class. So there's like this young injury, or not injury, sorry, young buzz of all these players, right? So you get all the 24 excitement. So there's like pick excitement, but people are like, man, 25 class, we still have months before we're probably going to be drafting the 24 class. So we're talking more than a year down the road for the 25 picks. Now, you could think about it that way, as that's when you're going to actually press the button. But like we just talked about with injuries, remove these players for a second. Think about how in the first month or two of the season, this year, so we're talking September and October for sure, directions, whether they're picked or not, people will be decided as far as if they're contenders and pretenders. And those that have 25 firsts, even if their team's not the most perfectly well-rounded and assembled correctly, you can move those in to the pretenders and really get totally different like point of purchases because it's you have the leverage and nobody else does. So
yeah,
that part right there for me is one of the parts that's changed my mind on a lot of this. You could tell me right now if you wanted to argue Brandon Aiyuk over a first, check. The first over Diontae by a hair, check. But then also that you're going to say you take Geno over the third and you want to say you ought rather take Mr. Wonderful side. I understand that. Or not Mr. Wonderful side, sorry, Blitz's side. I understand that. But for me, process-wise, I want the picks. I want the liquidity. I want Mr. Wonderful side. And down the road, as the season comes about, I can probably get at least something in this range at a minimum, and I'm going to have a chance to get more.
I think a lot of it too, like we talk about dynasty buys, and you'll notice like when I do dynasty buys, it's generally going to be quarterbacks, right? Just because of the positional value that they hold year to year, like the mid tier guys, like the back end QB1s, high end QB2s, like those guys always seem to be values. Now it can go awry, right? Deshaun Watson's living proof of that. But those are the kind of guys that maybe I'll explore, like pushing in what I think is going to be a late first four to go get right now. The other ones, Adam, definitely like wide receivers, but I only do wide receivers. Usually I don't even put them on a buy list unless they're like second round or early second or worse. You know what I mean? Because of that downfall. I don't really want to buy those guys who are like borderline first rounders. Possibly, it for me it always ends badly. And like I said, there's a big difference between if I miss on the second round pick, or multiple seconds. Great, I give you the 201 and 202. Nobody cares. If I miss and things go haywire for my team, I don't want to gift anybody, 101s, 102s, 103s, and go,
right.
What did I do? What did I do? So
right.
I think now in January I'm going to go with Mr. Wonderful, and it's just a process for me. I'm not really liquidating my draft capital at all. I'm not touching it.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think it'll be interesting to see too. Like if you told me right now, Mike, I'm trying to pull up the ADP. Like I'm trying to get a player in here or some type of if we switch Diontae out, like. Just for people that are listening that maybe they follow our concept, but they're like, hey, what would you need it to be player wise? So if I switch out Diontae, Mike, and I'm getting Tank Dell instead of Diontae, where are you at? Still no?
Oh, I'm good.
What about if it's Rashee Rice?
Yeah, he kind of carries some of that intrinsic value because of the youth, right?
I literally purposely made it the end of the fifth and the start of the fifth, and that's about the range. And you talked about this, right? Like the fifth round is kind of where it can get you in trouble. But if you're giving me, if you were to give me what I believe is a top 15 receiver in Brandon Aiyuk and another top 20 to 15 receiver in Rashee Rice, and I'm in. We're having a completely different conversation, right? There's, but I just want to highlight that that's a big difference because, Mike. The difference in what they are in ADPs currently, where is?
I mean, it's 5 rounds of difference between like where he took Diontae.
Yeah, he was
the 11th, and then you're talking about somebody who's a 5th round startup. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he took Diontae at the 10, 12, and normally that's where I start looking there. But then it's he's the 1108 in current. There's almost 40 drafts that have used him placeholders. So when you think about that, right? You're talking about wide receiver 43 and wide receiver 17, where we're going, okay, we'll flip it there. And it's a pretty big difference. Now, that being said, you could absolutely see a scenario, and this is why I wanted to highlight that as well for Mr. Wonderful side and Blitz's side. If you're on Blitz's side and you're like, well, wait a minute, I get it, but you telling me Rashee Rice and Diontae Johnson can't score similar points per game? They could. So I get the other side too. There's a lot of reasons and errors that could happen along the way that are the reasons that deter me, not necessarily the points per game and the players. So that's the reason I say that. Yep. Let's get into the next one, buddy. That's a good one to discuss, though. I like it. I do like that. All right, we got Leeson Button acquiring the 102, Mike. Yo, for the 107 and the 109. 12-team Superflex, half PPR, lineup start 11, Big Ballers Dynasty. First of all, lineup start 11. Okay, so we can establish it's a lineup league, not a best ball league.
Yep.
I mean, come on, Mike.
It wouldn't matter if it was best ball, just by the way.
It would help make it closer, right? I could see an argument a little more. I'm still going to argue for one side, which, Mike, tell me we both agree this is pretty easy 102, right?
Yeah, I don't like the tear up, too often. You don't get the name tear down by tearing up all the time, but this is a layup. I'm taking the 102, no question about it, Adam. It would help, you're right, if it was best ball, but it's lineup. I'm getting Caleb or Marv.
I mean,
for the 7 and 9 are nice, man. We just went through our mock draft show and did a mock based off of our mock, right?
I mean,
and
I'm
taking
could tell
JJ
me
McCarthy, who was picked 8th in our mock, at pick
to
112.
Atlanta. Yeah.
Pick one. Look, think about that. Like how deep
I know.
the class is.
I know. Don't shoot me. I know. Like, Mike, you're telling me right now, though, what's crazy about it is 107 because of this Brock Bowers stuff, and the receivers are going in there. If it happens to be Brock Bowers that falls, you could get him there. But if it's not, you're looking at, like, there's a real scenario that, a guy in the range of, like, Rome Odunze might could be there at 107. Probably not. But, like, there's going to be a very good receiver or Brock Bowers on that pick at 107, and then you get 109. But the difference is the flexibility and, the opportunity to get possibly the best quarterback off the board. Like, you cannot get that at 107 and 109. Even if you got McCarthy, you're likely not going to get the quarterback 3 in this class at that spot.
No.
So it's that type of a difference in a lineup start 11 where, listen, believe me, I like the 107 and I like the 109, but if you give me the chance to go get the 102 is like the premier pick for me this year, Mike. That personally for me, it's almost the pick that I want the most. Obviously, you'd rather have 101, but I know 101 and 102 are basically the same as far as value for me. I just get to pick that. I get to let 101 have all the pressure, and I just get to sit and relax. And
hey,
I get 102.
Like last year, I loved 102 last year, right? Because we had a dilemma, and we debated forever: Bijan or A-Rich, Bijan or A-Rich.
We did.
Bijan. And really picking at 102 was like, all right, whatever the hell they don't take, this is easy. I just take the other one and I move on with my life.
But you know what was interesting about that though, Mike, is that last year the only difference was that at 102, if you do that, you could be saying like, I may have to take a running back, right? The great part about this year is you don't have to worry about that at all. You're getting one of the positions that's premierly valued. That was the downside, right? But at least with Bijan, it ain't like he lost value during the season, right? Well, and he didn't have a good season. That's the crazy part, right? He didn't have a good season, and he's still highly valuable.
He didn't even Saquon Barkley rookie year, like RB3 overall, just
I'll admit
2,000 all-purpose yards. And
I'll admit I lost a little bit on that discussion point. It will be interesting to see how much he slides when the names actually come in, but I said like he's going to have that type of a season to retain value. Now, technically, he's gone down like a few picks, but he's really right in that range. He's really right in that same range without having a good year. So, from that argument standpoint, I lost.
He was like what, a late first?
He was 108 to 109 typically, right? Now he's at 202. I mean, it's same thing. You know what I mean?
Big money right there. But yeah, this is easy. Sorry, we got off on a tangent, but I want the 102. Here's the other thing, Adam, just about this one. Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison Jr. Caleb Williams, generational's been thrown around. Marv, generational's being thrown around. Like, both of these guys have ridiculous hype coming in. Both are fantastic. Caleb is going to, and I'm a firm believer, like when it's all said and done, is going to walk into top 9 quarterback overall, first-round startup, no question about it. Marv is already in that conversation of Jefferson, Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Harrison Jr. Those are your 4 dudes, right? Now, people put Puka up there or whatever, but Marv is walking into like top 5 wide receiver territory off the jump, right, without even playing a snap in the NFL or being on an NFL team officially.
It is crazy, and that's 100% true, yeah.
But both of those guys, think about it, get you into, if you want to think long-term, macro level, both of those guys get you into conversations for other actual producing players that a Brock Bowers, say if it's 107, you got lucky there. A high draft capital, J.J. McCarthy, just don't really get you into. Like, neither one of those guys really move the needle, right?
They don't.
If I want to go trade for Patrick Mahomes, if that's my flag plant on quarterback, I bring a Brock Bowers and a J.J. McCarthy to the table. The other manager goes, yeah, and how many other firsts you giving me? 2 and 25? Like, what are we doing here? If I bring you a Caleb Williams to the table, all of a sudden they're going like, all right, maybe one more first, like, seals the deal if you really want to tear up.
And you know what, Mike? To that point, I forgot to mention this in the last trade too. So it's a great point that you're making here that applies to both this trade and the last trade. When I get what is currently, Mike, going as the 204 in the startup brains as placeholders, right? And we can almost guaranteedly say it's going to go up at least a few picks, if not end up being a first-round pick, right? The combination of Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. Think about that now in the last trade. Mike, if I had the 102 and I add 225 first to it, I'm at least like making the person that has Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes think. They don't have to necessarily take it, but I make them think. If I come to you with Diontae Johnson and Brandon Aiyuk on those two, you may think, but there's a very good chance you say, I don't really like those guys. I don't really want them, right? Your flexibility goes completely away as far as what you can actually pair with stuff. And that's why I talk about leverage. The 102 might give you so many options. You can tier back down again and get values. So, for example, when I say that, understand that like right now, the 607 is the pick 7, okay, and the 109 is what, the 712. Mike, watch in about 2 months, you can trade that 102 and end up with, Michael Pittman and Deebo Samuel, and you'll have made like moves up in the startup twice from the 109 and the 107, right? If you wanted to go backwards, you can still go backwards.
And you can go backwards at a profit. Just
exactly. Exactly. So that's the thing. It's a tier up to one of those like premier spots that's so flexible you can do whatever you want to from that position, I really believe. That's why I think I want that 102 side.
Slam dunk.
In best ball, it might be closer, but I still would rather have the 102, even in best ball, for the record. So, all right, let's get into this one here, Michael. This is, speaking of 102, Jaden Reed, Roschon Johnson, Chase Brown, Jordan Love in the 102, or Josh Jacobs, Deebo Samuel, and CJ Stroud. 12-team Superflex, full PPR, half tight and premium. Lineup start 10. We're talking about the Dino Ballers League. Mike, there are some rising values on the Jamin Drew. That's terrible.
You gonna get his name out?
I don't know. I might not be able to. But B-Marks is acquiring the highly sought after CJ Stroud. Where you at?
All right. So let me try this the best way I can.
Let's do this. Let's dissect.
I've tried for a while to convert you to Deebo, and I got you about halfway there. Deebo's awesome.
You got me there. I'm still going to be lower than consensus, but he has proven to be a absolute hammer when he's healthy. He has.
CJ Stroud is crazy valued right now, like very very good. But I'm definitely more open to letting him go at his current price. Not that I think he's bad. Not that I think he's going to regress. I think he's being valued in that range that we saw Justin Herbert do his rookie year. The difference is Justin Herbert scored like 5 more fantasy points per game in his rookie year. Like that's how much more historic it was what Herbert did than what Stroud did. No knock against him. He was awesome.
Yeah.
But I think people are just getting a little bit over their skis. Doesn't offer you the greatest like rushing floor. Now he does have some mobility, but I think it was sub 200 yards he ran for this year. Like 180, 190 if I'm not mistaken.
CJ Stroud is very capable of running, but he is a tactical scrambler. That's what he is. He's not looking to run. Much like Mahomes, he is preferring to pass the ball, and when he scrambles a lot of times, it's an effort to throw. He's not someone that's going to likely hit you with a ton of rushing yards. I agree.
His rushing yards are more like a Brock Purdy-ish, maybe like prime Kirko Chains.
Yeah.
Just,
Well, like you may hate hearing that and be like, no. Well, it's more. It's not his capability. It's what he's going to do in his preferred style of play. Right? He's going to run if you make him run. That's when he's going to run. That's it. He's looking to throw the ball, and there's nothing wrong with that from the NFL standpoint. But it does take away when we're talking supremely highly valued quarterbacks the opportunity to run the football. Right?
So, Patrick Mahomes, first off, runs more for more yards, at least compared to Stroud.
Then in his rookie season, he has. Yes, I'd agree. But I just mean that he's capable of running at that type of a style.
Patrick Mahomes is also a threat yearly, offense depending, though, for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns as well. So even if he didn't run at all, he's a threat for just breaking fantasy from a purely passing standpoint. C.J. Stroud is very good. I don't think he's quite that threat just yet, though. And he doesn't have the rushing floor. So I'm saying, like, if we're already talking about him in this conversation with the Jalen Hurts, you know what his rushing floor and rushing touchdown total is. Josh Allen, year after year, right? There's a reason he's the number 1 or 2 quarterback. Hurts has been there the last 2 years as well. It's a very different conversation. So, like, he's a clear dead last of that tier of 4, in my opinion. He's good. But I'm also, like, open to kind of shopping him around. Jordan Love is on a heater. Now, I think he's going to rise way too much. Like, I already see Keep Trade Cuts, like, top 8 quarterback. All right, pump the brakes, okay? No. So I set all this up to just say, when I look at Jaden Reed versus Debo, I love Debo, but I will take Jaden Reed. Like, that is the...
There you go. See, and that's how I know that why you try to, downplay this Debo thing, which is true. Me and you were the same. I'd take Jaden Reed over Debo Samuel. Our rankings both reflect it. So,
It's a lineup start 10. Usually I don't like acquiring running backs, but if I am, give me a couple guys who's like situation, scheme, workload, all that stuff like that could boom next year, and we would never see it coming, to be completely honest. But those are the kind of running backs I want to roster. Not old Matt Breidas who, we've seen him, get work with Saquon. Still trash, right? We haven't seen Roshan in his second year or Chase Brown in his second year. Maybe they have big, huge roles, or maybe they're nothing. Either way, you'll find out, right? And they're easily replaceable. So those are kind of nice pieces to add. The 102 we just talked about is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I will say the totality of this trade, no matter how I break it down, Jordan Love in the 102 for C.J. Stroud, it is Jordan Love in the 102 in home run, slam dunk, smash spot for me, just on that one.
Yeah.
No question about it. Jaden Reed over Debo Samuel.
Right.
I think with both of those pluses, you add in a Roshan and a Chase Brown for Josh Jacobs. Like, I am okay letting Jacobs walk for that. You give me 2 running backs who could have big role changes. Jacobs could collapse in value, could still be solid. We don't really know. He's an older running back, though. Those are the kind of guys I want to get off my team. Jordan Love, I think, is a little bit overvalued, but the 102 just makes this up so much here. Right? You already give me a receiver I like more than the other receiver. That's an easy one. I'm taking the dub. And then I'm going to take the dub with the 102 and Jordan Love over C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, the way I look at this trade, because you hit on a lot of the points. But when I look at this trade, see, this is where the flexibility and some of the stuff with the 102 comes back to highlight again here. So think about this, right? If you look at this, and I'm a guy that was one of the biggest, Jordan Love ain't it guys. But when you look at this trade, the difference from C.J. Stroud to Jordan Love, if you're looking at it and you're going from just that perspective, and you're saying, man, like Jordan Love, I know he's a riser, but at quarterback 10, in startups and quarterback 8, like I feel like he's overvalued, and I think that C.J. Stroud's the much safer and better asset. Like, I'm not even going to fight you there, but understand that if you tell me right now that I'm getting – see, the thing about 102 and the flexibility there in a trade like this, Mike, think about for a second, whatever your roster currently looks like, you can kind of throw out the window because – yes, you're technically tearing down from C.J. Stroud to Jordan Love and taking possibly some risk on. But if that's Caleb Williams and Jordan Love, you could have 2 young rising stars in this league instead of one C.J. Stroud. Now, granted, C.J. Stroud could end up being I don't want to downplay 4,100 yards and his incredible gamesmanship he has showed this year and his ability that could be, I believe a lot of his game is translating and looking much like Mahomes did in his first year which, by the way, he got to sit behind Alex Smith, right? So, like, I understand there's the lead upside with CJ, but you got those 2 quarterback opportunities. Or, Mike, think about this. What if you tiered down? You already had your other quarterback spot somewhat solidified. And if you tiered down to Jordan Love, but now you get Marv and Jaden Reed. You forget Josh Jacobs. Forget Josh Jacobs. I could care less about Josh Jacobs in that position. It's no knock. Like, yes, I'd rather have Jacobs than the 2 of those running backs. But the way I'm going to play in a lineup start 10 league, I don't need to have Jacobs. I actually probably don't want to have too many of those type running backs. I'd rather just backfill with a bunch of other guys and weekly press the button on which one has the role or the opportunity, right? So this one's pretty easy for me. And this is as a guy that doesn't like Jordan Love. I know you're going to say, oh, you're never going to take a Deebo Samuel side of a trade. So I get you, but understand I also hated Jordan Love just as much, all right? So don't give me that nonsense.
We went through all that too. And reality, facts, right? Jordan Love's 3 years, 2.5 years older than CJ Stroud. It's his first year starting in the
he's
NFL,
he's a full
Stroud.
3 years older, yeah.
They both were dealing with very young weapons, both getting acclimated to them for the first time, learning on the fly.
Yep.
All that to say, the better WARP player, the better points per game player at the quarterback position.
Jordan Love this year. Correct.
We're just going to throw it out there, right? Don't shoot the messenger. Now, I acknowledge that 1 for 1, who would I rather have on my team? It's CJ Stroud.
Not too
But
close, right?
I'm just saying the gap definitely ain't the 102. Right?
No.
That definitely ain't the gap.
And I guess also, like, there are probably going to be people out there, Mike, that are getting pretty upset at us, even though, I'm known as a Deebo hater, right? But there's probably some people out there screaming that, Jaden Reed shouldn't be ahead of Deebo Samuel. And if you want to talk points per game in WARP, like, he was better than Jaden Reed. But I am comfortable doing some projecting of Jaden Reed and how great he looked on limited snaps this year. And I also think one thing that's not really talked about here is that I really like stacking Jordan Love and Jaden Reed as a final point. So
Yeah, that's nice too. But I just did the analysis without even thinking about the stack.
I just thought about it right now, exactly.
And right, I just tell you how agnostic I am to just kind of where I am with quarterback values. Adam, take out Jordan Love and replace him with Brock Purdy. I still want the Purdy and Jaden Reed side in the 1-2.
I almost wish that was the way it would happen, because then they'd be like, "What?
Just saying.
Has he learned?"
No,
That's what they'd be saying. No,
People still troll
you know
shit
how
out of me.
people
I've
would
been
be
the
doing.
fucking same. I've been the damn same, man. I've been the same on Purdy for a while. God, they act like it's
Brock
new.
Purdy or Bryce Young?
I'll take Purdy.
All right, good.
I'm not
All right.
psycho.
We've
I'm not a psychopath.
sanity checked Mike, and his saneness for now is intact. We're good. All right, love to see that.
Like people out here yelling into the abyss, like I hate him, and I've said like he's a very good quarterback too. What do you want from me? Okay, all I'm saying is the people I'm fighting out there are the ones telling me he's elite. Like you should be top 5, you should be MVP. You know what? Nah, fam. There's very big difference.
I mean,
big difference.
Let's. I need like a hammer sounder. This is a hammer, wildly valuable pieces in a trade. Like, you're talking about both sides, four pieces in both sides of this, where there's no, like, a lot of times in these trades you'll get a little fluff at the tail end, right? Like, you'll have some heavy hitters and then fluff. This is all extremely highly valued startup picks and players in Dynasty.
Somebody
4 for 4.
went to the big boy table, right? What is
Big
this
boy
deal?
table. I love this, and this is an early mid-January. You gotta love this shit. This is what Dynasty Degenerate is made out of, Mike. Right here, the essence of this. Redwoods in a 10-team Superflex PPR 0.75 tight end premium. Best ball start 10. This is best ball triple X. So be careful, those watching at home. This is not necessarily advised for every viewer. Redwoods, Dalton Kincaid, Jamar Chase, Trevor Lawrence, and Kyren Williams are being acquired for Rashee Rice, Drake London, Bijan, and the 102. Michael, 10-team now. Where you at?
12-team would change this dramatically for me.
I kind of agree with that point.
It would. Let me preface it by saying it would change it dramatically. But the way it is in 10-team, I'll say this: I want the Redwoods side in 10-team.
Okay.
Now, The reason behind it is in 10-team, Superflex quarterbacks are a little bit more devalued. They're a little bit easily replaceable. The warp graphs don't look as sexy even in good quarterback years, and we know the last 2 years haven't been actually pristine quarterback years. So there's really this is Caleb Williams at the 102 because whoever has the 101 should be taking Marvin Harrison Jr. Almost no question about it at this point.
Yes,
right?
Definitely. And 10-team, it's not close. Yep.
So when I look at Trevor Lawrence or Caleb Williams, right, as the pick, just pencil it in. It's a big ball of who gives a shit. All right? Don't really care. Either side.
Mm-hmm.
Kyren or Bijan, from a production standpoint, you probably dynasty value, Bijan is a little bit more insulated than Kyren, but Kyren was producing just an absolute gangbusters, man. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I will definitely side with the Bijan over Kyren, but it's not a huge thing.
Agreed.
Now the rest of it, Kincaid or Rice, I'd probably go Rice. I don't really know what the warp graph is on tight ends in a 10-team 0.75 premium. I imagine, though, it's actually probably pretty close, warp total, for if you project Kincaid to be a top 10-ish tight end.
I'll pull it up, man. We can chase
but the chase over London thing is massive, and I'm a big London fan, but that is absolutely fucking huge. So if you just hold serve at multiple ones, but you get a home run slam dunk at the other one and Jamar Chase, I will take Redwood's side here because of the chase thing. All right, I'm absolutely stacking a unit at the wide receiver position and not giving it up. Now, I will tell you this, though. You change this to 12-team, Redwoods will get fleeced out of his mind here. Absolutely fleeced. I could care less about Kincaid. Kyren, I'm going to Bijan. This is easy. The Rashee Rice thing is awesome. Trevor Lawrence or Caleb, I'm taking Caleb all day, every day in a thing that matters. So, yeah, I'd hate to give up Jamar Chase, but I'll figure out a way to replace that one because I'm getting Caleb, Bijan, Drake London as a nice one piece. And then, it's just so much different because of the quarterback values.
I'm pulling up the warp, too, to see. I'm very curious what the line looks like, Mike. Admittedly, I don't play in 10 teams, so that concept I don't necessarily have as grasped as far as what the lines look like in tight end values versus skill players. Here's what I'll say, though. I want to throw a wrench into this and see what you think about this. Okay, we got the graph pulled up, by the way, and let me tell you that yellow line looks about as meaningless as it's ever meant in these tight end lines.
Looks just as bad. All right.
Now, if you tell me that you get the right ones, for example, Travis Kelce last year ended up in totality, even though a bad finish, was the tight end 1, which that is equivalent to Brandon Aiyuk. So not bad. It's just you got to pick the right, but you got to pick the right one because if you don't, let's say it's tight end 8 is the equivalent of goodness, man, Derek Carr, Jerome Ford. So. Now, that being said, Mike, let me throw a wrench into this because the line that we can all agree on in a 10-team league that everybody will want and the position you're going to want is receiver. If Malik Neighbors gets this top 5 draft capital, top 10 draft capital, what if it's Malik Neighbors and you can afford to get rid of a T-Law?
Yeah, and then you're stacking up Bijan, Drake London, Malik Neighbors, and a rising Rashee Rice?
Yes. That, I think, is the side for the 10-team that when I throw that wrench in,
that don't really matter.
All of a sudden I get off a tight end, it don't matter. I probably can get rid of find another quarterback that gives me production to T-Law with what we've seen from him in his career. And that all of a sudden I think throws a little bit of a wrench in it for me as far as I'm torn, honestly. When I think about it that way, I'm torn on which side I want.
Yeah, that would throw a wrench into it. I just kind of assumed it's going to be, Caleb.
Caleb, right. And it still could be, but when I think about in 10-team, the lack of scarcity, I've seen a lot of 10 teams, Mike, where they're looking at 2 or 3 good quarterbacks on all these teams. When I say good, I'm talking top 20 quarterbacks, right? So I'm not saying that you couldn't take Caleb here, and I don't know what this person plans to do with the pick, trade it or not, but I think in a 10-team, when you look at this line, this blue line that's really high, DJ Moore's, Brandon Aiyuk, Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, these types, Puka Nacua, they're breaking this type of a game. And then you see it trends above every position for the entirety of it. But top 20 wide receivers in a 10-team league are huge. So Malik Neighbors is going to walk into a top 20 like dynasty value. It's going to happen.
The last time we saw Kyren on the field, right, in the playoff game, wasn't like he was anything special, right? Just kind of mid and ass, and for whatever reason, Ronnie Rivers was playing. So
right.
We've seen Sean McVay hop off these running backs. Now, I think he might be a little bit different, but still, like, I don't want to carry that risk. So I go from a Kyren to a Bijan, like, sign me up, I think.
Yeah. For the other side?
Yeah.
Yeah, the more I think about it,
me, man.
I think the more I think about it, that's where I'm at. The one difference is, though, and now mind you, this is best ball. So in best ball, like I don't have to pick when Drake London's playing. I don't have to pick when Rashee Rice is playing. That's huge. The one thing on the top is still that Jamar Chase is the asset in the deal. Like when I look at the deal in totality, Jamar Chase is the asset that kind of stands out. But man, because it is best ball, I'm starting like really to think about the totality of the pieces underneath. And I guess that would really be the thing. If it's Caleb Williams, and you told me that like you're not taking Malik Neighbors, I want the Redwood side. But as soon as I start thinking, man, if that's Malik Neighbors, that's a top 20 wide receiver. Shit, man, in 10 team, I don't know if I like this. So
you think about it, if Malik Neighbors did, right? The Chargers, top 5 draft capital.
Exactly what I'm thinking. Yep.
How high is he coming in dynasty ranks? It probably ain't too far behind like where Jamar Chase is. Like he is nipping on the heels, and then you look at startup landscape, and they're both second-round picks. Yeah,
I mean, you could see Malik Neighbors probably right behind like Puka and right on that Garrett Wilson type range.
Wow.
Right?
Kind of an epiphany, yeah. Yeah. Man, sorry to do it to you at Redwoods, but
Redwoods is screaming.
Me, man.
I had this all won, and Adam ruined it. Sorry, buddy.
Came in, man. It was like the Hornets comeback that we just watched last night, even though Cat dropped 62.
Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. We had Cat dropping 62 and B dropping 70. Is the big man back? What's going on, man?
Let's go.
All right. 12-team Superflex PPR, half-point tight end premium. We got a lineup start 10 league, Mike. So we're back to lineup start 10. Respect my dynasty. I feel like we've seen this league before. I love this. Speaking of Kyren, do we go Kyren thumbnail? I mean, what do we do here? Kyren or a 25-second? Kyren and a 25-second, or James Conner and Devontae Adams, Mike. Lineup start 10.
Conner's a buy. Devontae Adams is a buy. Kyren's been a sell. But I don't think I could sell.
That being said, there's levels to selling, right?
There's levels to sell it. I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can. I'll take Kyren in the 25-second pretty easily.
And I was going to say, Mike, as much as, like, that's one of the things I think that, like, everybody watching or listening at home, like, I love doing dynasty buys and sells, and I love talking about what it costs. I think one of the things that you'll see is people say generically just go buy a player and don't tell you what that looks like. Like, we try to do a really good job of that, but when you think of dynasty buys and sells, no matter who you're getting it from, make sure that you are thinking about what the cost is. Because, Mike, if you just say, well, they're both buys and Kyren's a sell, I got to take this trade. Mike, James Conner for me, while he is a buy, I'm liquidating for seconds. I am at this time of year.
Yep.
I'm going to liquidate for a second. If you tell me straight up Kyren Williams or Devontae Adams, I'll take Kyren. And that's why I just think it's important if you're going to do buy sells, as far as like consuming that information, make sure you're being pretty cognizant of what that actually looks like price wise, because you could get messed up on just the concept, right, of buys and sells.
Yeah. You think when you throw somebody on a buy list that you're absolutely in love, and that means do whatever you can to get them.
Right.
Not how I work.
Exactly.
Or the same thing. You throw them on a sell list, and it's like, you just get rid of them for anything. Like, you just don't like the player. No, I don't hate the player, or I don't love the player. It's about what their actual value is.
Right. It's
that
very much. It's very much.
Or I really like their value. It's one or the other.
Right. It's very much reflective of what it is relative to cost. The player relative to cost and value. All right. So 14 team, Mike. All right. We got 10 teams out here. We got, all this stuff. Let's go deep. Let's go 14 team best ball, Mike. So we got 14 team Superflex PPR, a full tight end premium, all flexes, which by the way, you're in this league. Best ball start 12, dodgeball best balls. All right. The 113, Mike, or CeeDee Lamb. I believe we talked about this trade.
We did. Not on this show, but we talked about it.
So it's funny that, Mike has seen this trade and we have talked about it. All right, Mike, CeeDee Lamb or Drake London, 25 first, 25 second. Where you at?
I'll I'll take the package because it is a 14-team best ball.
Yeah,
CeeDee's awesome.
I agree.
Fizzle, don't get mad at me. CeeDee's amazing. But I'm taking the package all day, every day of the week, easily. And, I know some of the pushback that I got from a certain someone was, I could sell CeeDee later or whatever. Maybe. Maybe you can. Maybe you can't. You're paying a premium right now, though. The price of the brick is at an all-time high. Right? That's a first-round startup pick in a 14-team league. That's really high.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be able to get out of it. Maybe.
Yeah, I think when you think about 14 teams, okay? Now, this is one of the things when you talk about 14-team picks, Mike, and I have been guilty. The first year we started really talking and doing a bunch of league dissecting and all that, you could tell yourself this story where it's like, but look, if I'm deep sea and I win, and I'm sending you the 114 and the 214, I just sent you a second round and a third round pick, really, right? People can say that, and I understand that concept. But I've been on the side where I think I'm sending you a second and a third, and it doesn't go that way. And here's the reality for this trade for me, Mike. Okay, do I want Drake London or is it CeeDee Lamb? There's not a debate. Don't take this as some kind of disrespect. All right, respect my dynasty. But Mike, this is one of those trades where, like, what can Drake London with a new situation next year in points per game look like relative to CeeDee Lamb and spike inconsistency? He's probably not gonna compete 1-for-1. But if you told me he had, let's say, 2 less spikes and 2 or 3 less consistent weeks, he made a very sizable jump in points per game and consistency, I really wouldn't be that surprised. And then you think about what a first and a second can buy you when you spread it out across 14 teams, depth becomes extremely important. And if I can get, Michael, if this trade was able in totality to net me, if somehow I was able to get a player in that Jaden Reed type mix for that 25 first, and I can get in a second like a running back, even like we looked at last trade, like James Conner types or somebody like that, where I'm plugging in 3 spots now, it's really hard for me in a 14-team league to make this type of consolidation. As much as I love CeeDee Lamb, for one player, that especially at the receiver position, given all that.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, right? It's best ball, 14-team. You touched on all the depth, right? But if I just talk from a strict warp aspect, CeeDee Lamb had a historic year, right?
Dog.
Do we think it's going to get better next year? Possibly, Adam.
It could.
If it feels like it's a little unlikely, don't it? It could, but
if he would have to be the wide receiver he was in the second half of the year for the whole season, right? That's the only way it could get any better.
So he was wide receiver 1 in warp, top 6, right? Total. Okay. He had a 1.996. Very, very good. Drake London, you just said, had an okay year. Even if I say Drake London has the exact same year next year as he did this year, there's a 0.7, Adam. So you got 1.2 warp that you got to make up here.
Yep.
Now let me just list off some guys that you can buy for a first and a second, no question about it. Who would give you that 1.2 warp or better?
Okay.
Keenan Allen, 1.5. Mike Evans, 1.4. Puka Nacua, at one point, you could have bought him for a first and a second from anybody.
Right.
He was a 1.3, but we won't even count him. Right now, you could buy DJ Moore probably for a first and a second, 1.3. Okay, Devontae Adams, just talked about him on the previous trade, 1.2. Brandon Aiyuk, talked about him for just a 25 first. Felt like, maybe. He's a 1.2. Deebo Samuel, who's also been on this show, 1.2.
What about like Michael Pittman?
That's if you have to pay a first and a second for him, Adam. Like, you have to. You don't have to, though. Some of those guys you can buy for a first. Some of those guys you can buy just for a second. To the point is, CeeDee Lamb is easily replaceable in this range with all this liquidity if you include a player like Drake London, which is what got happened here.
Yeah.
This is why in best ball startups, 14-teamers, deep ones, doesn't really matter, but best ball startups, trading up from your 4th rounder to the 1st and including future 1st and 2nd round draft capital is a horrible play. Like, that's why you never see Adam and I ever do it, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you traded up there to the back end of the 1st? If we do this kind of thing, is to go for like a warp difference maker at quarterback, right? And even that this year turned out bad.
Right,
so
correct.
You probably shouldn't do that either.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When we did it, it would have been in the mindset to go get one of those studs. And while we could look at warp in the past and say, oh, it makes sense, that ended up being a bad play. I would say overall, here's the reality of this. When you make this trade, you're kind of in the principal side, like just from a principality of it. Like when you look at this is one of those trades that in order for this to work, everything has to go right for you. Like, and that's why we say don't do it. Like there is a scenario, Mike, where the CeeDee Lamb side of this trade is the one you want. But understand, for that to happen, it's going to need to be like collectively a parlay. All these things have to hit, because if one doesn't, you lose the ticket. That's the way I kind of look at this, and that's where, for me, I'm much more averse. Like I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to go down that narrow pathway where all things have to hit for this trade to work for me. I like to give myself options to make something different later on, you know?
Yeah.
And God forbid, Mike, please, this is real wood, knock on wood. God forbid CeeDee Lamb gets hurt. God forbid whatever player you traded all this for gets hurt, and then you really, really might have no outs. Because I remember, Mike, I did this in going into the 21 season. So in that summer, and I leveraged some picks in on the 14 team league. It was lineup, not best ball. And like two of the people I did it for got hurt. And I remember one was Saquon, and it completely can nuke everything about your plan. Like now all of a sudden your team needs help. You don't have enough depth. You can't replace that depth. You don't have your picks. Like everything can snowball down the wrong hill, right? So that's where this type of a trade, Deep Sea, I'm not even going to tell you that you didn't have a plan. I know you did. I know you have a reason for why you're doing it. But for me, I just know the downfalls that could be to no fault of your own that come from it.
Yep. Good league, though.
I love seeing the
big
league.
hitters that one.
Oh, okay. I like seeing these type trades, Mike, where it's a couple players, some young guys, and then all of them picks up top. Mr. Wonderful has a, it's interesting. He makes the show twice, and he's got an affinity at this point, it seems like, for having the non-player side, which for a long time, Mike, you and I have talked about when you become player agnostic, it tends to be a good thing. So let's see what happens here. Mm-hmm. 12-team, 2 quarterback, 2 tight end, full PPR, 1 point, full tight end premium. It's a 0.25 points per carry. It's best ball start 12, USFL champions. All right, Mike. Mr. Wonderful is acquiring Matty Gomes, 25 first, a 24-207, the 110 and the 209 in this class. So 110, 207, 209, and a 25 first. Don't forget the 15 in Fab now. Plus, he's sending away to 1 shard a year. I like that. You poop your pants about once a year. I like that. Kyle Pitts, Zay Flowers, Trey Tucker from CBCA High School. Let's go. And 25 third. Mike, where you at?
Still like Kyle Pitts, just not as much as he used to. Zay Flowers is pretty awesome. Love him too. But this is where I just keep the liquidity and the flexibility, and I'm more than comfortable trading these guys away for this right now. And he snuck some fab in, which I love. It was like low-key, just shout out to the South Harmon guys. Best ball leagues.
Let me start
the liquidity now, and I'm going to start hoarding this fab just a little bit at a time. But we're starting in January, baby.
He's like, Adam, I heard some of those little takeaways from, you losing all these leagues this year that you want to start getting fab early. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's 15. Start tucking it away early. I don't know what the budget is in this league. It really doesn't matter. You start tucking it away big or small. Penny saved is a penny earned, Mike. So when I look at this, trade, man, I think Zay Flowers for a first. So Zay Flowers are the 110 and the 207. I think you could argue, but in best ball, I'm going to just take those two pieces a lot of times, especially as dope as Zay is. It's hard for me to say that, but man, I 2-for-1 it. It's hard for me to not in the range that he's at.
Keon Coleman or Troy Franklin. We just did the mock draft, and it was those kind of picks. It was Keon Coleman and Brian Thomas Jr., and they went back-to-back, one to Buffalo, one to the Chiefs. Like, those are dudes at the 110 your Pence probably going to get, and you get a second-round pick on top of it.
Sure.
In the best ball league.
You can get your guy what's your guy at the 207? Oh, man, I can't think of his name now. Starts with the M. Come on. Wide receiver. We were debate. You were saying he's not just Hunter Renfrow. I can't think of his damn name right now. Oh, gosh.
Ladd McConkey?
Ladd McConkey. Yeah, you get Ladd there, right? Yeah. There you go.
Ladd McConkey, actually.
Yeah, so my point is that there's people in the second round. I don't know why the heck I just had the brain fart on his name. But sorry, yeah, there's plenty of people in the second that it's like, okay, if you add that now, like you can see the risk you take by taking, a Keon Coleman or whatever, but you get that 2-for-1, and then you could still trade it. You don't necessarily have to actualize the player for forever. And then I also get a first and a second for Kyle Pitts. I like it. The third and Trey Tucker, I guess, is where there's variables. Like for me, Trey Tucker went to the high school I went to, so I love and root for him for forever. But I don't really equate him to much of anything in dynasty value, frankly. And the third, like I like it, but if you tell me that I'm going to end up having to throw a third into the mix to make this trade happen, I'll do it. If that's what it takes to get it done, just make sure you kick me that fab and we'll sign the deal. We'll sign the letter right now,
And then maybe down the road he's getting the third back for the fab,
Oh, that's some 4D chess right there, right?
You know what I mean? Like, all right, you're going to compete. Hey, you got a third left, right? It's best ball league. Need some fab? Might have to double it or whatever, but he could care less about his fab at that point. He really cares about the 30. He gets it back anyways.
And there's two ways that can work, right? It can be that you trade the fab strictly for a draft pick 1-for-1, or, Mike, that $15 in fab could land you Tucker Kraft. And ta-da, third round pick, right? Like easy. That's not even acting like you did anything wild. That's like an easy projection one, right?
Well, that $15 in fab, we see this every year, right? Puka Nacua was on waivers.
I didn't even go to the extreme, which that's like you change the totality of the league there. But
James Robinson was RB3 one year. He was on waivers. Elijah Mitchell was on waivers. Like, this happens every single year.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think this year. I just think this year, Mike, especially the quarterback position this specific year, like that $15 in fab, even if you told me that while you made this trade, you still, like, if you lost Zay Flowers and Kyle Pitts and made this type of a trade, you don't have to be rebuilding, by the way. Like, you can make this type of a trade and still find a way to make your team ready to rock right now.
Yep.
And if you think about if that $15, Mike, at any point turned into any combination of these guys at the quarterback position that gave you 2, 3, 4 weeks, Jake Brownings, come on, right? Like, there's all different types of ways you could look at that in a best ball league.
Joey Flacco, baby.
Joey Flacco. I mean, that'd almost be the cream of the crop if you got that one done, right?
Well,
I mean,
think about the year before, man. It's Brock Purdy.
The year before, it was a very short window, but Tyler Huntley won people championships, right? Like, it happens. And I think also just, again, keep in mind that fab money throughout the year, even if you go down to a lower level like Tucker Kraft, or you say Dontavian Wicks, Demario Douglas, right? Like, these are people that were to be had throughout the course of the season for fab money. So laugh at it all you want.
Kyren Williams was on waivers to start a lot of leagues.
Oh, gosh. That's hard to believe, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You know how many rosters I had him on that I cut him, mid-August?
Best ball roster clogger, right?
I gotta get rid of him. I can't. Right? You gotta pull those dudes off IRR, clean out your taxi, and you're just like, not you. All right, it's Cam Akers time. Wrong.
Yeah.
You fail.
Yeah. I mean, it's wow. The point being that $15 in fab could come in handy, but Mike, if you told me it wasn't a part of this deal, I think I still want the top side. I like Kyle Pitts. I think there's a chance that we see, a resurgence from him, not to like elite levels, but where he's not as completely feast or famine, and you're just like, I want this guy off my team. But Mike, process-wise, best ball, 2-for-1, not really discussion. Not really that deep for me. It's not that deep.
Yep.
I liked it.
Good ones, man.
I liked it today. I was going to ask you, where are you at? What are your thoughts? I thought there was some really good discussions. I thought there was a couple that are just like, all right, we've seen this time and time again. We know how this works out. But in process, I liked a lot of the different types of trades that we could discuss from different lenses and different settings. And I also
that might be the first one in trade show history, though, where like I've locked in my answer, like final answer, and then you swayed me.
I know, man. Sometimes the 10 team, Mike, I'm telling you, the 10 team for us though is where that is likely to happen the most, because just from like thinking about the 10 team leagues more and more, the questions just seem to keep piling up. And Mike hates you for it. Everyone, you guys keep giving him the 10 team, but Mike, the more you'd have the 10 team discussions and you start thinking about it, I've never played in that format, and I can give you a lot of reasons as to why, but when you start thinking about it, it's like, man, this receiver is just the king, right? This is the receiver. So if you told me that 102 is Malik, holy shit, buddy, we might have to flip-flop this, huh? We might have to do a trade show history flip-flop, huh?
Might have to. Unfortunately, Redwoods is going to hate you forever for that.
The good news is it had nothing to do with the flip-flop. Redwoods is going to hate me for forever for the rest of the time, so I'll take it, buddy. And for the rest of the time, there's nothing you can do. I love you. So sorry about your luck, Redwoods.
No, man, this was a good one, and we got to get after it, man. Leagues to wake up. It wasn't for lack of trying, man. I probably sent out like 30, 40 deals here in the last week, just portfolio deals. Now, they either get declined or people are on board with the way I'm thinking, even though I wish I had some more Brock Purdy to share, because apparently he's top 5, right?
Mike, there was there was a couple where I got an offer and I didn't even send a counter back, because it's like, listen, this is clearly, we are in a shenanigans season, because I don't know who you people think I am. Like, you heard I lost some leagues, and these are just, come on, man, best ball 4-for-1 assets. Like, we got to get people waking up, and we got to wake these leagues up. It's time. All right, we gave you a break.
It's time. We
gave you some time off. It's time to get back to it, man. I'm with you. Let's see if we can come in with a couple trades from each other, like next week, right? Like a whole handful, a slew. Maybe you guys don't even make the show. It's just a Mike and Adam show.
We've had enough of the Who's and Mr. Wonderful, right?
Yeah.
We've had enough. The people have said enough. We're done.
Enough is enough. Listen, like, it's one thing that I have to see these guys every week, but we're starting the show off with these guys. Like, all right, let's cut this shit. Let's cut the shit. All right.
Pass. No, good one. I'm glad we're back in the swing of things on the Dynasty Trade Show. A lot of good stuff here at South Harmon too. A couple of big announcements in case you guys have been sleeping under the proverbial rock. But
if you're under a rock, come on, wake up.
We hired the wonderful Miss Casey Kasem. She's going to be doing some content for us, so stay tuned for that.
Yep.
Dynasty Barry Analytics. Let's go. Barry's grades.
Barry's been working through raw data chunks in just massive amounts, right?
So you got to come check that out on the Patreon. The team members getting ready to crank some stuff up. Looks like we might have some content from Fizzle coming out. Koopa is getting ready to drop some stuff. Of course, America's Game. Eric is doing his thing. He gets better every week, man. Such a good podcast host. Such a good host. Love Eric. So, yeah. And then you, buddy, your big announcement you're throwing out there. So South Harmon to the moon, 24. We thought that was just a joke, right? 24 is our year? Nah, man, it started off pretty good in January. Other than we can't get deals done to get on our own damn show.
Exactly.
Rarely.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll be doing some work with BDGE. When you watch this, I'll actually be in New York for the first time. I'm going to be out there every couple of weeks, twice a month. South Harmon, man, the blow up is just starting. We're bringing in Casey. We're bringing in Dynasty Barry. We've got, Fizzle doing a show. We got Koopa doing a show, all kinds of stuff. This is just for us, Mike, part of the reason the trades are slow is South Harmon is busy. It's booming. It's been a crazy start to the year. We're excited. We are appreciative of you being here. Go ahead, hit that like button, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you thought. Let us know we're crazy on whatever it is. Say that Mike's capping. He still hates Brock Purdy. Whatever it is that you have to get out there, get it out. Get it out of your system. If you want your deals on the show, patreon.com/South Harmon. Stay tuned. The blow up is just getting started. We'll see you back here. Same time, same place next week. We're out of this thing. Peace.
Peace.